Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Mirna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it. Are you struggling with excess weight and can't seem to lose it? Introducing the Row Body Program. It provides access to the most popular weight loss shots on the market. The program pairs a weekly shot with healthy lifestyle changes so you can lose 15 to 20% of your weight in a year on average and actually keep it off. Go to row.co/transform. Sign up today and you'll pay just $99 for your first month and $145 a month after that. Medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/transform. Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Mirna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Dr. Melissa Burt. Dr. Burt and I are going to be talking on the topic, protecting our kids' future by transitioning to clean energy and reducing heat-trapping pollution. So we're talking about the planet today. We're talking about science. So welcome, Dr. Burt.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today.
You're very welcome. All right. So this is new information for you guys. So I'm glad to be able to highlight and showcase this work. So let me give you a brief introduction. Dr. Melissa Burt is an associate professor in the Department of Atmospheric Science at Colorado State University, whose research focuses on Arctic clouds, radiation, sea ice, and climate change. Dr. Burt is also Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion in the Walter Scott Junior College of Engineering at Colorado State University. She is also a mother and member of Science Moms. Science Moms is a nonpartisan group of climate scientists who are also mothers, dedicated to providing accessible, reliable information on climate change. Their mission is to engage and empower moms across the country to advocate for climate solutions, ensuring a safer, healthier planet for future generations. Leveraging their scientific expertise and parental perspective, they communicate the urgency of climate action in a relatable and impactful way. Dr. Burt lives in Colorado with her husband and young daughter. She first became interested in science by reading the children's page in the Washington Post with her grandfather, especially the segments about the weather. So I am glad, Melissa, will drop the formality. I'm glad, Melissa, that you, your grandfather started you early on this work. It's amazing what we learn from our parents and our caregivers. So I want to dive right in and ask you the first question. How has human-caused climate change, and I'm focusing on the word human-caused climate change, affected the increased heat waves or extreme heat?
Yeah, so thank you again. And I'll say, first, when we think about climate change and the human-caused aspect of it, we know that when we produce and burn fossil fuels from driving our cars, making electricity, these gases or carbon pollution are put into the atmosphere and can stay in the atmosphere a very long time. And what happens with this is as we increase that amount, we create this blanket. We call it like a heat trapping blanket around our Earth. And as that blanket gets thicker and thicker, a result is our planet gets warmer and warmer. And so we know through the Industrial Revolution, that the blanket is getting thicker, things are getting warmer, and we're seeing things like the melting of ice sheets and glaciers. We're seeing increased sea level rise. We're seeing stronger storms, deadly wildfires, very, very deadly heat waves and extreme drought. And we know also, 2023, I don't know where you're coming from, but 2023 was hot. 2023 was hot, and it was the hottest year on record. And we're 8 months into 2024, and we're already on track to beat that. So we know this human aspect is really increasing not just the frequency of these systems, but also the size, the intensity, the duration of these unnatural heat events.
Yeah, well, I live in Florida, so I'm the recipient of these storms. and every year they are getting worse and worse. In fact, I'll even go deeper. I live in Fort Myers, and Fort Myers had one of the most deadliest storms. Well, then, yeah, deadly, killed a few people, but I mean catastrophic, where it just wiped out a whole city, and I'm not too far from the beach, and, I got flooded and all that. Didn't get any damage, but the beach is gone. And that is from these storms. And we already had one, it was only a category 1. We already had one already this year. So I am aware of the storms. And I think the storms come because the ocean is heating up, right?
Right.
So what are we doing to heat up the ocean? I mean, is this part of that blanket?
It's part of the whole system of the things. And like we have a lot of heat that gets trapped into the oceans, right? And so that's part of this, the heat blanket that happens, but also just the continued nature of the increase based off of human activity. And I think what we'll note also is that, you were speaking directly about the hurricanes that come through in Florida and on the East Coast, but we also know that extreme heat is one of the deadliest forms of extreme weather, specifically here in the United States and even across the whole world. It's more deadlier than hurricanes and floods combined, also more deadlier than tornadoes and even just extreme cold. So I think the thing that people oftentimes are not realizing about all of this is that extreme heat is a part of the extreme weather that we're seeing, and how that has a big impact because of these unnatural aspects of human-caused climate change.
Yeah, the heat thing. I mean, I know that you're in this space, so you know of it. I was reading something just maybe a couple months ago where there's so many Muslims, not Muslims. Well, I guess they're Muslims, but they were going to Mecca, and hundreds of them died because they're all covered up, and it was 120-degree weather, and a lot of them died. And I have seen several places where it's listed in the United States, the hottest day on record, so definitely I'm seeing that. Now, the other thing that you didn't mention is ACs, because they're changing the AC fuel because it's supposed to be doing something to the ozone layer as well. So how are the ACs affecting that?
Yeah, and I think that comes down to sort of the type of energy that is being used and the chemicals that are produced within air conditioning systems. And so this is why there's lots of conversations as to, can we move to more electric? So can we swap out some of those carbon polluting aspects and making them more electric, right? That's something that helps to create more clean energy within the system. I think the other piece, and you spoke about the individuals who go to Mecca, I think, a lot of people are really vulnerable to heat-related illnesses, specifically people, if you're young children or even just the elderly. And so I think that brings us back to like why we need to do something about, these unnatural disasters so that we can get a greater hold, but also to be able to protect the future, not only for our kids, but also for the generations to come.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just basically what we're going to be focused on today, the kids. But yeah, I'm glad that you kind of highlighted that right away off the bat, that the vulnerable population are the kids and the elderly. We don't talk much about kids, so I like your guys' work. We always talk about the elderly because you're seeing them talk about the elderly people that can't handle the heat and in nursing homes and these type of things, but nobody focuses on the kids. So that's pretty good. Now, you were just talking about pollution, and one of the things that Science Moms says is that we can reduce pollution by just 10%. Now, if we can reduce pollution by just 10%, we can end climate change before it's too late for our kids. So what can we do to reduce our pollution by 10%?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we even want to do more than 10% ultimately. Okay. But I think what it comes down to is that, we as humans, created these problems, and we as humans need to work together to create the solutions for that. And so as Science Moms, we really come together to sort of lead that charge. Moms, I don't know how many of your audiences are parents or mothers. Like, the thing that you do as a mother is that you protect your child's future, right? Like, you care about them, and you will do whatever you can do to protect their future. And I think this climate aspect is part of that. So when it comes to reducing our carbon polluting items, if that's for, driving around in your cars and swapping out, a gas car for an electric car, or for those of you in homes where you can change your devices that you have, swapping out your gas stoves for electric stoves or things that you can do. You can even think about that from, weatherizing your home in a good way that will help to keep in some of the energy. You can even think about ways in which you can sort of just start the conversation. I think the biggest thing that happens with people is that they don't know what they can do, and there's individual things that we can do. We've all heard about changing our light bulbs to LED, right? We've all heard about maybe changing our transport, right? If it's biking, if it's busing, if it's, whatever you need to do to get to where you need to go. I think the more that people can understand, here's how I can play a role in this as one aspect that helps in the reducing of our emissions. But I think the bigger goal is that this is a global issue. So individual action is helpful, but collective action is where we really need to be. And so really coming together, and I think all of your listeners knowing that we can come together and actually make a difference. And part of the way that we can do that is by having a conversation like we're doing today, right?
Yeah.
And the more that we can get people to talk about it, the better.
That's great. As you were talking, I remember you saying transportation, which is the big one, right? The government is giving credits for electric cars, and a lot of people are moving over to the electric cars. So that's one way. But something just popped into my head when you were talking. I'm thinking of carpooling. They have a lane on the highway so that you can go quicker if you're carpooling. And I'm almost sure that the purpose of that was so that there's less cars on the road. Now, we didn't think about pollution. We're just thinking of traffic jams. You know what I mean? But yeah, traffic jams, all that exhaust fumes is going up to pollution.
So it's a twofer at that point. It's helping traffic, but it's also seeking about ways in which we can reduce the carbon pollution that's out there by, coming together, carpooling together, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Now, I didn't know about the light bulb situation. So what you're saying is that a normal light bulb is contributing to pollution?
Well, it's contributing to just energy, like increased energy, right? And if you do LED light bulbs, they're more efficient. And so the less energy that we can put out there, the better that it is. So it's not specifically connected in that carbon way, but it is part of the ways in which we can.
Okay. Well, listen, everybody can do that.
That's simple. That's like an easy check right there.
Yeah, everybody can do that. Those LED bulbs last 5 years, so why not? Right? Yeah, why not? So that's amazing. All right. Now, we're talking a lot about, changing out our cars from gas and our electric stoves or gas stoves to electric. So if the whole world was to do that, would that make us 100% clean energy? Is it possible to go there?
Well, I think we need a little bit more than that. But yes, I think there's been a lot of research that has shown that if we take the steps, we can be 100% clean. And I think that comes from a combination of things like solar energy, wind energy, even at times like nuclear energy people talk about as a way in which we can move the needle to make it the steps towards becoming 100% clean. I think we also need the infrastructure in place to be able to make that happen. And I'll say, here in the United States, we are one country, but again, this is a global issue. And a lot of people in outside of the United States didn't really contribute to this climate problem, right? And so I think there's ways in which we all can come together to, again, solve that global issue. But we do need the infrastructure in stake. We need the energy systems in stake. We need the all of the pieces to come together to make it happen. But I think that there's a way, and I feel like I have hope that we can actually do that.
You can get there, right? Wow. Probably not in our lifetimes.
Yes, in our lifetime, we can make it happen.
We can. All right. Okay.
We can make it happen.
Yeah. I do know that the government is on board. And, again, these things have like a 2-for-1 thing, because I think they were on board with this kind of energy. You talked about wind energy and you talked about solar energy. And I think that the government is on board for that because they don't want to be dependent on the Middle East for oil. But, it's a 2-for-1 thing where you don't have to depend on oil and you're also having clean energy. So that's a good thing. Right.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I like to think about, and when I tell people, you really need, the biggest thing that we can do is talk about the issue and talk about the issue on many different levels. So even in your local communities, you can start to instigate and ask questions within your local government to say, hey, what are the things that you're doing to make this city more sustainable, right? Here are the things at a state level, like, instigate your governor a little bit. Like, what are the things in what you're doing to help make changes in that? And really to think about it at the national level as well. So if we can really take the steps to talk with our elected officials at the local, state, national levels, that's the way in which we're going to see the change that we want to see so that it happens within our lifetime, fair enough, but also our children's lifetimes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What if you could take a weekly shot to lose weight and keep it off? If you've heard of Ozempic or Wegovy, you've probably heard three things. They're effective, but they're expensive, and they're hard to get. That's where Ro comes in. Through Ro, you can access prescription compounded GLP-1s with the same weight loss ingredients as brand name GLP-1s at a fraction of the cost. Ro has compounded GLP-1s in stock right now. You can get it in 1 to 4 days if you qualify. Ro members have support throughout the process. If eligible for medication, patients have access to their provider on demand for any questions. You can see if you qualify from the comfort of your own home. This means no schedule a doctor's appointment, no commute to the doctor's office, and no waiting rooms. Go right now to ro.co/transform. Membership starts at just $99 for your first month. Medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/transform. Please note, go to ro.co/safety for black box warnings and full safety information. Compounded medication is not required to and does not receive FDA review or approval. RX only. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Kim Kardashian's Skims or Justin Bieber's Drew House, you think about a great product or a cool brand with brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, including Skims and Drew House, that business is Shopify. Shopify helps you do your thing however you cha-ching. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business today and get the same checkout as Kim Kardashian's Skims. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/transform. Again, I said I live in Florida, and I wasn't even aware of it until I was reading an article. But maybe 15 minutes away from me is a community that is 100% solar energy. Can you believe that? 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, they are taking baby steps. Like the only community in Florida, I would think. But it's a first step. All right. So let's bring our conversation back to the kids. So tell us a story about how a natural heat has changed kids today.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think, we've seen all across this country how this unnatural heat or these heat waves are having real impacts on lives and families across the country. We see, we have actually a really nice video within Science Moms that's called The Active Man that really speaks to how extreme weather, but even just heat in general, is having real impacts on people's day-to-day lives. You know, they're postponing their summer trips. They may even be postponing their fall trips at this point, right? It's so hot everywhere we are. I think, you know, camps are having to close, summer festivals and concerts are being canceled. I think a lot about, you know, during the pandemic, right? In the town that I live in, we had the pandemic going on. We had a wildfire that was happening in late August of that year. It was so hot. All of those things combined, we couldn't do anything, right? It was an impact to our health, you know, from a wildfire perspective. For just breathing outside was an issue. It was an impact to the heat. Like we couldn't even go outside because it was too hot. And so I think these are the pieces that are impacting our day-to-day lives. And I think a lot of moms and a lot of parents are starting to say like, hey, you know, it used to be hot, you know, June, July, August. Now it's hot June, July, August, September, October, November, right? I mean, you're in Florida. It's hot all the time. Yeah. But, I mean, but I will say like in many other places though, you know, it's just like, this is what we're living through. And this is sort of the intersection and the crossroads in which we are. And I think there's a way in which we can make this change. And we have to do that as a collective piece together, right? To really work through the issues and have global action and to really work towards like decreasing those emissions and decreasing the carbon pollution that we're putting out there. So I just think about the story of even just my own child, you know, during this time and saying, oh, mom, what are we going to do about this? Hey, you're a climate scientist. You should be doing something about this, right? And I'm like, trying. We're trying. All of us are trying. So I think it's really just sort of breaking through in, like, I feel like a broken record in saying this, but I think it's really about having that conversation and not just talking with you, Myrna, but also talking with your neighbor and talking at your school or talking at your church or talking wherever you go to really get people to see that this is an important problem that's not only impacting people like over there, but it's really impacting people, the communities, and the places in which we love.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking, I remember two things. One, right, I live in Florida and it's hot here all the time. But, you know, my mom or my family is still in Toronto, Canada, and it's hot there now too, right? And just yesterday, my daughter, I have an 18-month-old granddaughter, and my daughter went out to this kind of festival, and she's in Washington, and she tells me, oh my gosh, it was so hot, and he couldn't stay there very long. I mean, we're standing in line for lemonade, and it's so hot. But that's what everybody is saying, so they couldn't really enjoy it, right? And because it was too hot. Now, I don't know how much hot was, but you know,
I mean, hot is relative, but I'll just say, and I think, you know, yes, we see this on record, right? Like, as I was saying, you know, 2023 was the hottest year that we had on record. Even just decreasing the number of days by like 1, 3, 5, 10, that has a very, very big impact on just the overall temperature of the whole planet, right? So the more and more heat days that we have, we see that it has many different impacts. I even think about, I got an email this morning from my daughter's school that was like, here's what we're going to plan to do because of school closures because of heat, right? That's new.
Wow.
We didn't get emails that said, here's what we're going to do for school closures, right? Wow. But now we're getting school closure emails related to heat. And here's the plan on what we're going to do to be able to mitigate that.
Yeah. That is true. You brought up a good point earlier about, you know, summer is the time when, you know, parents want to take their kids camping, want to take their kids to the zoo, you know, and those type of things. And now they're saying, oh my God, I remember loving to go to Disney World, but Disney World is in Florida. And you don't want to be walking around Disney World in 100-degree weather. But, you know, people would say, okay, well, that's Florida. But you're right. No, it's happening all over the country, right? And Colorado, you guys are mountainous and probably have cool temperature. But think about the people in Arizona. I mean, I remember going to Vegas and can't go outside because that is hot.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in Colorado, like, I think, well, there's a little bit of a misnomer about Colorado. We have the plains, we have the mountains, and we even have like close to the desert. We're a very semi-arid community. And I think you even experience the heat in that way. So I can only imagine like my friends in Arizona and Vegas, as we were seeing, like, You know, they have to go out probably at 5 o'clock in the morning if they want to have playtime outside because it's too hot.
It's too hot.
It's just a big problem that we really need to take the time to really solve. And, you know, not everyone has air conditioning. So what do you do about that? When you even see in local communities, like, you know, pop-up shelters for heat. And those pop-up shelters, maybe they need to no longer be pop-up and they need to be stand like a brick and mortar, right?
Yes, it's true. A lot of the old age, facilities or poor kids don't have. Again, we're going to those extreme populations, but heat affects everyone. But, it affects, the young and old, disproportionately. But yeah, kids that are poor and their parents don't have air conditioning, or, elders in nursing homes, or my mom lives in an old age facility. She's in Canada, but she doesn't have air conditioning in that building. You know what I mean? So we had to buy her a portable one because it's much too hot in there. This is Toronto. And the reason the building doesn't have AC is because traditionally Toronto is only hot two months of the year.
Historically,
there.
Yeah.
September, it was cold.
Yeah.
July and August, you know what I mean? But no longer. They're hot. So, all right.
And I think if people sit and think about that, you're like, well, I remember when I was a kid, it was like this, right? And how has that changed now?
Yeah, exactly. You can actually see the difference, right?
That's in one lifetime. That's in one lifetime.
Being a child and being a mother, right? You can see the difference. Okay. So how has being a mom shaped your views on climate change? And is being a mom the reason that you joined Science Moms? Because you're already a scientist.
Yeah, I was already a scientist before becoming a mom. I guess I'll say two things. A story of like, I have been in this field as an atmospheric scientist for, about 20 years now, I guess, at this point. And I studied the Arctic and the polar north. And the Arctic has been changing for decades, right? And I was aware of that, and I knew it was a big problem. And I've met people who live in the Arctic regions, right, in Alaska, and who have had to have a shift in their livelihood because of climate change. Now I was like, oh, that's a problem. I know it's a problem. There's something that will happen and we'll solve it. But I think when I became a mom, I think I saw things a little bit differently, because it was like, what is the planet that's going to be here for my daughter and my daughter's kids and my daughter's grandkids, right? And like, is this the planet that we want them to have? Yes, the planet will be here, but is it like habitable in the way that we want it to be? Will they be able to see the places that we loved as a kid, the places that I want to take my daughter to too, right? Like, will she be able to go to those places and enjoy them in the ways in which I did? And I think that's the piece that motivates me. And that's the piece that had me and my colleagues, we come together to create Science Moms, is because yes, we're scientists, but yes, we're mothers as well, right? And how can we intersect our lives in that way to really protect our kids now and also our kids' future? And so I would hate, I think the biggest thing is that I would hate for her to say, Mom, why didn't you do anything about it? Right. And I know that's a big thing to hold. That's like a lot of things on the shoulder to carry. But I think if I can inspire her or motivate other moms or people, especially like women of color and Black women, to see that like this is the thing that matters for you and your kids, then that's what I'm going to do. And so that's why we came together as Science Moms, to really provide moms with the information that they need so that they can understand the climate problem, so that they have tools, so they can inspire action, so they can get motivated and they can talk to other people about it. So I guess I'll say that, like, that's why, like, I just my whole perspective on life. And I think with every parent, like, your perspective on life changes when you bring someone else into this world, or when you adopt a child in a way, like, you have not just you have someone else, and wanting to create the best life that they can have. And I know my mom wanted to create the best life for me, right? And so I want to carry that on for her.
Yes, listen, that is fundamental to mom, as they sit and they think about, how can I make my child lives better? What schools is she going to, I just told you my granddaughter is a year and a half, and my daughter is already, moving into neighborhoods for schools. I'm thinking like, hey, anyway, I mean, that's another conversation, but
Yeah, but I think, the other piece is that, like, as moms, you ask other moms for advice on everything. If it's like a car seat, if it's a school, if it's, whatever it may be. And so we thought, well, why can't we have moms ask us as climate scientists about climate and actually help them do something about it?
With the Inner Journey Mental Clarity app, we're transforming lives through mental fitness. Our mission is to make mental wellness accessible, actionable, and a daily habit for everyone within a supportive community. No judgment, no negativity, just community. We know you're managing stress, anxiety, memory, and performance, all while juggling work and family. Let us help you exercise your brain like you exercise your body. That's why we created the Inner Journey app, a neuroscience-backed mental fitness gym. What makes it special? We integrate neuroscience and psychology into every feature, from focus reps and quick 5-minute resets to our daily mental clarity routine. You're not just clearing your mind, you're strengthening it. Start your journey today and take control of your mental well-being. Download Inner Journey now and get 1 month free with promo code TYM. Your mind deserves this. For more information, visit innerjourneyapp.io. That is INNERJOURNEYAPP.io for a better mind, better habits, and a better you. The other piece there is that I'm getting chills because I love speaking with people that want to make a difference in the world. You know what I mean? It is such a beautiful thing to not only come here and just look after yourself, but you come here and you want to make a difference in the world. So I commend you. That's a beautiful thing. Like, you see my big one?
I can see them all the way over here. And I think also, Orna, is like, getting people to take care. We have this one planet, right? And how can we be a better steward of the earth?
Right.
And how can we talk to our kids as soon as possible? Like, people always ask, when can you start talking to your kid about climate change? And I'm like, well, I started taking my daughter on walks when she was a baby in the stroller, right? And just getting her to have an appreciation of what's around her. Right. And then as she got older as a toddler, like, let's pick up the things here and let's look at them and see how they change. And so I think there are ways in which you can just get people to, or get kids to just see the beauty of what we have around us. And I think that sort of puts in this duty of wanting to do things better and really wanting to protect things around us. And so, yeah, that's my story.
And as you were talking, what popped into my head is that I hope that, science teachers are listening, because they can have these little science projects to what can we do to make, the planet better. So now I'm thinking it's a tall order because I can't think of anything right now about what kids can do in school projects. But let's talk about moms. What is one thing or several things that moms can do to not only teach their children about climate change and about, unnatural, disasters and things like that. So yeah, what is it, things that they can do?
Lots of things. Well, number one, you can read books with your kids. I think a lot of parents are also hesitant because they want to have all the answers. And I say, let's use this as an opportunity to learn together. Right. So you can start, getting books from the library and reading about, the earth, about climate change. We have some great videos on sciencemoms.com that really help parents get motivated, where they can learn about climate videos and help them sort of inspire action. We have lists of books that you can read, games that kids can play, to really just get them in that mindset to think about just science in general, but also to understand climate and weather and all of those things. I would say, as for parents, like, I'm on the PTO, the parent teacher organization at my daughter's school. And so I'm talking with the principal about what are we doing as a school district, right? From a sustainability perspective, are we having clean energy buses, or are we still using those diesel buses? Right. So I think as parents, there's many different ways you can talk to your kids But I think the even greater thing that you can do is talk to one another as parents, right? If it's at your, your book club, if it's at your, school event, if it's at your church event, whatever it may be, just to have a conversation and just really to learn together. I don't think we need, people don't have to be climate scientists to actually want to do something about climate, right? So you just need to take the time to even just educate yourself. And we have a lot of different resources on our website, sciencemoms.com, or even through our Instagram channels that can really help educate moms, parents, children, whoever about what the climate issue is all about.
Right. That's good. So as we're, I'm thinking of all the things that people can do individually, we can change our gas stoves. It's funny. That's coming back because I've gone to see some new developments. New houses, and they've got these pretty gas stoves. They're like really pretty. I'm thinking, when is gas coming back? I'm thinking it's very dangerous. Those things can poof very quickly. Yeah. So I never liked gas stuff, but it's coming back. But yeah, you can have the conscious awareness that that's bad. Not only is it dangerous, but it's bad for the climate. Change your car out. My son just bought an EV car. I still have a gas car, but my son just bought one, and he's bragging about, hey, Mom, I just plug it in at night and I don't have to use any gas.
Yep, I got one myself. So that's the thing. I think so. Here's what I would say if for anybody that's out there that there's listening. Here are the things that you can do to make a difference. I think the first, as we were just saying, to swap out those things that are more carbon polluting. If it's related to your ovens, if it's related to how you cool your house or how you even warm your house, think about changing those stoves. I think the other thing that you can do is share information, right? Motivate others by sharing facts, the reason that you're concerned, and the solutions that are out there related to climate change. And really, by having these conversations, it gets people to think about the actions and the things that they can do. And then the third thing is really just to speak up and to ask your elected leaders, again, at all levels, from the city council to Congress, what are their plans and their actions to fight climate change? And I think most elected officials, if they get something from a constituent within their space, they want to respond to it because they need that vote, right? And so really, if you can do those things to speak up about the issue and why it matters to you and why you want to ensure that your kids have a healthy future, that's the way in which we're going to make things happen. So it's simple. It's swap, it's share, it's speak up.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Now that's direction, listeners. That is direction. Keep your eyes on the prize because you want to have a planet for your kids and their kids. And right. So that's awesome.
And in our lifetime.
In our lifetime. Right. Yes. Yes. Because I already negated that. So let's bring it back. So let's bring it back. Now, you said something just now that I find interesting. You talked about school buses that are diesel. Is there any kind of directive to make buses electric?
I think it depends on your state. There are different rules that are there, or different legislation from a state to state perspective. I think some states, specifically here in Colorado, they're working towards making most of the school buses more clean energy. We see them with our city buses, but they're really aiming to work towards the school buses as well to get them to be, energy electric at that point.
It's beautiful. It's not happening here, but, but yeah, not yet, right? Hey, that's
not yet.
Conversation.
Never say never.
Creating awareness, right? That's what we're doing here. We're creating awareness. So that's great. From my mouth to the universe airs, right? Somebody's listening.
If someone's listening, and that's where you just ask the questions, right? You say, hey, what are we doing about this? Has anybody thought about that? Right? Just by sort of instigating the conversations through, people sharing their concerns.
Yes, that's beautiful. All right. Now, we talked about quite a bit of negative effects. I don't know if we missed any, but what are some negative effects of climate change that most people may not think about when they think of climate change? Did we miss anything? Or is there more?
Let's see. There's of course more. I would say that climate change is having an impact on the places that we love. I'm from the East Coast. I love the beach. We're seeing changes in our beaches due to sea level rise. Because of that, we're also seeing changes to the diversity within the ocean, right? You can think about tourism, if it's from the fish, crab, the seafood industry is having a very big impact because of climate change. And many of those creatures or whatever they may be in the ocean are having to move north because the oceans are too warm. So that has a very big impact on industry from the food economy perspective. We've seen recent events like the wildfires that were in Hawaii, right? The wildfires in Denali National Park, the destruction that we saw from Hurricane Beryl. All of these things are putting the places in which we love at risk. And I bet if there's one thing, I always tell people, like, what's one thing you love? There's a way that we can make a connection as to how it's impacted by climate change, right? And so that's the part that hits home, is like, you want to make sure that like your next generation can still see and visit and be a part of all those different places. So I think it really just stifles a lot of different pieces. If it's from an economic perspective, the biodiversity perspective, and it really just hampers sort of the lifelong memories that we have with our kids. So I think what we need to do is really, again, just to speak about it, to talk about it, to really get people to think about the action. And that's the way in which we'll make the change to save the places that we love.
Yeah. Especially if you like camping and those things, or the national parks, and those wildfires are very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. So I mean, you didn't mention California, but California just had they're always on
always on fire.
Wildfires, right? So
we used to say here in Colorado that like wildfire season was like, just through the summer, but now the duration of wildfire season has even extended all the way through the end of the year. So maybe we used to be 3-4 month wildfire season. We're now up to 6-8 months. That's more than half of the year is wildfire season.
Yes. Well, we got the hurricanes, and they're getting, I think there were like 21 named storms this year. I mean,
one of the most active
here, only like 2 or 3.
Yeah. It is of the potential, right? And so I guess I'll say, I don't want to end on a negative, because I have hope in all of this. So I think it's really important that we think about, we have the tools, we have the resources to make the change that we want to see, right? And I have hope because of our kids and the future generations to come, that we can do the things that need to happen to really combat this climate issue and to really make these unnatural disasters like no longer, right? So I think it's really important to like bring it back full circle as to like, we have the things that we need. We just really need to take the collection of action to make it work.
That's amazing. Now I'm going to bring this back full circle. So if we were to do all these different things, change your fuel, change your AC, change your stoves. These are things that individual can do. Government can maybe put infrastructure for solar and wind energy. So what is that going to do? I mean,
if we did all of the things,
30 years, let's say in 30 years, how is that going to make a difference in the ozone layer?
I think what we would see, if we were able to be so aggressive in what we need to lead to clean energy, 100% clean energy, all of the resources and all the structures in place, I think we would have less carbon pollution. We'd have a cleaner, healthier, maybe cooler planet, so that we won't keep saying that like 2024, 2025, 2026 is the hottest year on record. If we can do all of those things. But I think there's a way. And I think
the earth will start to be cooler, right? And then there will be a reduction in the wildfires and the heat waves and those type of things.
I think we would like to see a reduction in all of those things.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's something to strive for, right?
Yeah.
Yes. That's me.
You can go big or go home, right?
That's right. It's possible. Yes. So that's a very positive way to end. All right. So now tell our listeners how they can connect with Science Moms. I mentioned what you guys is all about in the bio, where you can, mention it again and talk about, what your vision is and your purpose and and what you guys do at Science Moms.
Yeah. So we are, again, a nonpartisan group of climate scientists and mothers who really are working towards providing other mothers, other parents, the information that they need to want to get motivated, to inspire action, and to really understand the issues as it relates to climate change so that they can work to create the best future and the best now for their kids. We want a clean, healthy, planet in which everyone is really thriving in, right? So you can find more information about us at sciencemoms.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Science Moms, and we have a wonderful collection of climate videos. We have a wonderful collection of demystifying information around climate change. We have books. We have ways in which you can talk to your kids, and in inspiring ways in which you can sort of request action at all levels, at the local, the state, and also the national level, to really ensure that we are taking the steps needed to create the best planet.
That is beautiful. That is amazing. Yes, Melissa, I enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. I'm glad I was able to, to have a great conversation on something I didn't know anything about.
You may not have known anything about it, but you've experienced a lot of it. And so that's the thing that I think you say is like, I have experienced this. I know what this is like. And what do I want for my 18-month-old grandchild? Something different.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's beautiful. Right. Yes. So yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation. I really enjoyed, listening to your vision and making the world a better place. I mean, hey, it's an amazing thing to do, to try to make the world and the planet a better place.
So I would say, thank you, Myrna, for the opportunity and for really to get people to really transform their mind around how we can think about climate change and the steps that we can take to really take action.
Yes. Well, my mind has been transformed. So my mind has been transformed. Yes. I got to go out and get me an EV car. It's first step. Yes. Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, guys, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. Here we're talking about transforming the world, transforming the planet, transforming the lives of your children and yourselves by making a conscious effort to reduce the heat in the energy, in the ozone. It's heating up, and we can do something about it. So the first question I asked Dr. Burt is, human-caused climate change. We underline that because we are causing it, So it's not the wind, it's humans that are causing it. So because humans are causing it, anything that you cause, then you can also reverse. So thank you guys for tuning in. Dr. Burt, this has been amazing. Again, I can't say it enough. I commend you for the work that you guys are doing. I wish you much success. I wish the planet to be cooler and less hurricanes come my way in Florida and wildfires come your way and tornadoes and all the things that happens because the planet is heating up. So as we wrap up, any last words that you want to leave?
Yeah, thank you all. And please visit sciencemoms.com.
Great. Excellent. Awesome. Well, listen, guys, I will have a transcript of my conversation with Dr. Burt on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to her website on her Instagram handle. So if it's very easy. Science Moms, I know you're not going to forget, but just in case you do, then you can just head to the show page and click on the link. So I enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed doing my part in order to, save the planet. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Dr. Burt. And until next time, namaste.